The World Health Organization is asking for answers from China after reports that respiratory illnesses are spreading in children in the northern part of the country. Pediatric hospitals have been overwhelmed with parents and their sick children. Chinese authorities have attributed the rise in flu-like illnesses this winter to the lifting of COVID measures. But the World Health Organization are urging people in China to take measures to reduce the transmission. Joining us live is virologist Bharat Pankania. Hello there, Doctor. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. So can you explain, because obviously there are these echoes and familiar feelings when you hear of an illness you haven't really heard of suddenly spreading in China and children being taken into hospital, and quite a lot of children too. So what's going on?
So my first analysis would be keep calm and be watchful. I honestly don't think we have a new problem on our hands here. These children appear to have an infection, most probably a bacterial infection, and I qualify that by saying they're responding to appropriate antibiotics for an infection caused by what we call a Mycoplasma pneumonia bacteria. So it again further strengthens my analysis that this is probably a bacterial infection. Now, why have we got so many of it? My reasoning for that is it is the winter season now in the Northern Hemisphere, and these things spread. They spread in crowded, poorly ventilated circumstances that you would get in places like households, offices, classrooms, etc. So in a way, I'm not surprised that we've got all these cases. Of course, we're on high alert for anything coming out from China, and hence we are talking about it.
Is it an illness that we have already had in this country, that we already know about, a bacteria that you're familiar with, or is it an illness we've never heard of, we don't know about, and it's a complete shock to the system?
No, not at all. That's why I'm calm and comfortable. We know what Mycoplasma pneumonia do, and whilst I haven't got absolute 100% proof that it is only mycoplasma, and that's why we should always be watchful and do our own surveillance and watchfulness in our own country. But I'm pretty confident that, yes, this is not a new bacterium, this is not a new virus, this is not some new something that has, again, originated from China.
And so why is it that children are being so very badly affected by this? Because so many of them are being hospitalized. And you might also like to take us through the symptoms, which actually don't sound very much like the pneumonia that we're familiar with. So they don't seem to be struggling for breath particularly. They don't seem to be coughing, but they've got agonizing sore throats, roaring temperatures, and are terribly unwell.
Yeah, so that's the way the Mycoplasma pneumonia bacterial infections present. In other words, you get that high temperature, you may not necessarily get that cough and that classical symptoms of a chest infection. Nevertheless, we know about Mycoplasma infections, and we also know how to treat them. They do not respond very well to the classic penicillin family of antibiotics. But on the other hand, they respond pretty well to the erythromycin platform of antibiotics.
Right. So obviously people will immediately be thinking, oh my goodness, you know, all international travel is up and running as it used to be pre-pandemic. People will be on flights arriving here from China dozens of times a day. Lord, do we have to be very careful about our own children? Do we have to worry a great deal about them catching this horrible kind of pneumonia from some Chinese passengers who decide to pop over here?
At this point, I don't think so. However, we should always be watchful, and this is why investment in those health protection systems is very important. In other words, we have that watchfulness of children admitted to hospitals in the UK. We take samples, we analyze the samples, and we make sure that we're not dealing with something untoward. And in other words, my advice is keep calm, but keep watchfulness. And we have the systems in place in the UK where we would be taking more samples than necessary to make sure that we're not dealing with something unusual.
Well, thank you very much indeed for joining us and for calming us down
Thank
so
you.
beautifully.